impeachment with lawyer Alan Dershowitz. Brandon Straka faces big tech giants. Frank Stallone, that is. And Don Mclean celebrates 50 years of American Pie. That's Trey Corley in the Music City Connection. And I'm your announcer, Keith Bilbrey. And now, here's Mike Huckabee!
Thank you very much. Welcome to our show. We got a great studio audience here. Even in the days of COVID, we're still able to have a few folks come and be with us, and we hope you'll join us real soon. Wear your mask, socially distanced, but come. We have a great time. Well, in just a few days, Joe Biden is going to be sworn in as president after the most controversial, contested, and crooked election in our history. Now, just to make sure that none of the 74 million Americans who voted for President Trump forget how much they hate him and us, Democrats in Washington impeached the president for a historic second time. This time, they used the phony excuse that he is responsible for the awful and inexcusable criminal assault on our Capitol by a group of anarchists who made up a very small number of the tens of thousands of people who attended a rally earlier in the day. Most of the people there were unaware that anything had even happened until they got back to their homes or hotels and saw it on the news. Now, while President Trump could have and maybe should have spoken sooner and more forcefully to denounce the riot, I've carefully read and listened to his entire speech that day. And to say that he caused it, it's ludicrous. But don't take my word for it. The most distinguished constitutional scholars of our land who neither supported nor voted for Donald Trump have dismissed allegations of President Trump having incited a riot as nonsense. But Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and the angry mob of congressional Democrats decided that impeaching Donald Trump in the hours before he leaves office will somehow be good for the country. Now, these are the same Democrats who joined with the media all last summer in actually defending and supporting the rioting and looting of American cities and the deadly assaults on police officers all across the land.
What you're seeing behind me is one of multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
I don't care that much about statues.
Shouldn't that be done by shouldn't that be done by a commission or the city council, not a mob in the middle of the night throwing it into the harbor?
People will do what they do.
And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
There's a fire going on behind you, dude. Don't know if you missed that or not. Look, no matter how many times I see those clips, I still have a hard time believing my ears. Meanwhile, conservatives condemned the lawless anarchy in our streets then and equally and forcefully condemned it when it happened in D.C. on January the 6th. There should be no double standards. But the left in America has gone way beyond a double standard. They have no standards, just emotional outrage, hate, and blind bigotry toward everyone who won't surrender to their iron fist. The second phony impeachment is being done without any evidence presented, no hearing, no witnesses, certainly no due process. You thought about this? Serial killers like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer were given more due process than President Trump. And when a mob, whether it's rioters or members of Congress, and the media deny judicial process and rush straight to a verdict and sentencing, it's not justice. This is one mob reacting to another mob. And that is the logic of a lynching. I sure wish that members of Congress were as concerned about the destruction of the places of business owned by law-abiding citizens in Seattle, Portland, Minneapolis, New York, or Los Angeles as they were by the destruction of where they do their business. And soon, yes, it'll be President Biden. He continues to claim that he wants healing and unity. But is that what he expects will result from the condescending rage directed toward the half of America who voted for President Trump? Look, I'd love to see the country come together and act like America again. But I'm not going to march willingly behind those who truly believe that voices like mine ought to be closed off from social media, are kept from employment, are freely harassed in restaurants, shopping centers, or public places. So if Joe Biden wants to unify the country to respect the rule of law for all, stop big tech from crushing competitors and conservatives, and move toward ending poverty, build some roads, stand up to China, and take care of our military and our vets. If you do that, I'm all in. But if you keep your pledge to push abortion even to the moment of birth and want taxpayers to fund the folly of letting 7-year-old kids surgically change their gender, open the borders of our country with no controls, punish work by taxing the people who have jobs to redistribute their money to those who refuse to work, and then force churches and faith-based colleges and organizations to surrender to views that violate the teachings of the Bible, then count me out. That's not asking for my cooperation. That's asking for my surrender to an agenda that's antithetical to my faith, my family, and my freedom. And that's not a call for unity, but uniformity. It's not asking me for tolerance, but obedience. And it's not a call for healing, but for more hurt and hate. And to that, I'm pretty sure I speak for many of the 74 million Americans who will respectfully say, no thanks. This week, the House voted to impeach President Trump a second time, making him the only president in American history to have been impeached twice. My next guest represented the president during the first impeachment, and he might do it again. But it's not because he's a Trump supporter or even a Republican, because he's neither one. It's because he believes in the Constitution, and he believes a legal system that treats everyone equally, even a president. Please welcome Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz. Professor, did anything the president say in his speech on January 6th incite a riot?
Certainly not, and certainly it doesn't constitute an impeachable offense. It was completely protected by the Constitution. It was pablum compared to what Brandenburg, the man who was convicted in Brandenburg versus Ohio, and a unanimous Supreme Court reversed his conviction. It was pablum compared to what civil rights leaders and suffragettes and labor leaders and radicals and people of all stripes do when they go to Washington. They say, go to the Senate, confront them, get in their face, show them how strong we are, don't back down. Those are fighting words, and fighting words are part of political rhetoric protected by the Constitution. So the other thing the Congress did on the day it broke its record by impeaching somebody twice, it also broke its own record by violating the Constitution on 6 different occasions, 6 different clauses of the Constitution in one day. It violated the First Amendment. It violated the impeachment criteria under the Constitution. It violated the Bill of Attainder clause by saying he could be put on trial as a private citizen after he leaves. It violated due process by not giving him an opportunity and his lawyers an opportunity, on and on and on. To have broken that record of so many constitutional violations in one day. For what? In order to end the presidency a few days earlier and leave us with a legacy of a broken Constitution? It's just not the right thing to do.
I've heard you mention that this is going to lead to every party out of power using impeachment as a process just to gig the other side. And true to form, sure. A Republican legislator introduced articles of impeachment on Kamala Harris just this week. So I guess we're already seeing what you prophesied. Didn't know you were a prophet, but there you are, right. A professor and a prophet.
Oh, you know, the Talmud says that prophecy ended with the destruction of the Second Temple, and he who tries to prophesy is either a fool or a knave, and I hope I'm neither. But look, it's going to become, look, if you were to announce that you want to run for president in 2024, you'd be a very strong candidate. The Democrat-controlled House and Senate could impeach you, a private citizen, in order to stop you from running. It has turned impeachment into a weaponized, political, normal thing to be used politically instead of an extraordinary measure to remove a president who's committed treason, bribery, other high crimes and misdemeanors. It's so in violation of the framers' intent. It's what Hamilton called the most dangerous thing, to allow impeachment to go forward simply because you have the votes to do it. And that's exactly what the Democrats did.
Let me assure you that I will not be running in 2024 or any other year. I'm done running. I've been there, done that. So we're going to let somebody else experience that joy. Troubling to me.
Well, you're only saying this because you don't want to get impeached. That's all. You're only, that your Sherman statement is not credible. It's only because you don't want to be impeached. You'd be a great president.
I'll say what Abraham Lincoln said about being run out of town on a rail. If it weren't for the honor of it, I'd just soon pass. What is troubling most to me, Professor, is that there was no due process. It's one thing to say we're going to charge someone, we're going to present the evidence against them, but then we're going to give them a defense. In this case, the House rushed to a process which they did not give him a defense, nor did they produce any evidence. As a constitutional law perspective, from your vantage point, why should every American, even the people who hate Donald Trump, be concerned about that precedent?
Because what they did to Donald Trump today, they can do to a Democrat tomorrow, and they can do to you the day after tomorrow. If Congress claims the authority to put private citizens on trial, we go back to the pre-revolutionary British system where Parliament tried people, and that was called a Bill of Attainder. And the framers of the Constitution explicitly prohibited Congress from passing bills of attainder, which means Congress has no jurisdiction to try people who are not currently in office. And even if they start the trial while he's still in office, the minute he leaves, 12 o'clock noon, January 20th, the Senate loses all jurisdiction over him as a private citizen. And if they claim jurisdiction over him, they're going to claim jurisdiction over you. It's McCarthyism all over again, but McCarthyism of the left rather than the right, the McCarthyism that I grew up with and fought against in the 1950s.
You were a part of the legal team that defended him in the first impeachment. Do you expect that if this thing does actually end up in the Senate and go to trial, as they impeach a private citizen, will you be on that legal team again?
I think it would be a mistake to have the president present a substantive defense in front of the Senate. I think his best approach would be to deny the power of the Senate to try him and to take the case to court rather than to have him subjected to a partisan or even a bipartisan vote in the United States Senate. So I don't see any room for a lawyer. Lawyer had no role to play during the impeachment. Nobody called on any lawyer to defend the president. And I don't think a lawyer has a real role to play. This is political theater, and I'm neither a politician nor an actor. So I don't really want to participate in a show trial. I think the challenge should be made in the courts against the power of the Senate to put on trial an ordinary citizen.
Some have suggested that the reason that Nancy Pelosi has pushed for this and the Democrats have gone along is that they want to somehow disqualify President Trump from running again in 2024. Right. Is that a legitimate argument? Would they, in fact, disqualify him? How do you disqualify somebody from running if he hasn't been convicted of criminal activity?
No, and you can't do that. The text of the Constitution is clear. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification. In other words, if you remove him from office, then you can disqualify him, but you can't just disqualify him. The word "and" is in the conjunctive, not the disjunctive. It doesn't say that you can remove him from office or disqualify him. It comes together. And if he's not in office, you can't disqualify him. The Senate has no role in picking candidates for future office. That's not their function. Their function is to remove a president who has explicitly violated the 4 criteria in the Constitution: treason, bribery, other high crimes, and misdemeanors. And President Trump doesn't fit into any of those qualifications. So impeachment is improper, and certainly simply putting him on trial to disqualify him is a classic bill of attainder, according to the Supreme Court of the United States.
Professor, you always impress me. I only would have said, just for you, I might have gone to law school. Thank you so much for being with us. It is
I wish you
a
had.
delight to have you here. And you can follow Professor Dershowitz on Twitter, for now at least, at Alan Dersh, and take a listen to the Dersh Show podcast. That way you can get Alan's thoughts on current events. Keith Bilbrey is about to break some news by telling us what's next on the show.
Well, coming up, Walkaway Campaign's Brandon Strock, and later, rock and roll legend Don Mclean. Don't go away. Next week on Huckabee, Hollywood star John Schneider and country music's Tim Atwood.
Welcome back. Brandon Strock was a lifelong Democrat who decided in 2017 that he just didn't like what the party was turning into, and he couldn't stay silent about it anymore. So his walkaway group had more than 500,000 supporters on Facebook alone. Well, that is until last week when the page was blocked from the social media network, along with many other conservative voices, removing the testimonials of thousands of people who were equally fed up with the media and the leftist propaganda. So to talk with us about what he's doing about this wave of censorship, Brandon Strock. Brandon, welcome back. It's good to
thanks
have
for
you
having
back.
me. Good to be back.
You were first with us when you just really had launched the Walkaway movement.
Yes.
And it grew like crazy.
Yes. And it may shock you, but we actually doubled in size over 2020. This amazing thing happens when you shut down the economy, when you prevent people from being able to work, when you allow people to go out and riot and smash windows and burn neighborhoods. People don't like it.
They really don't, do they?
Yeah, it's weird. And so hundreds of thousands of more people joined our group just in 2020 alone.
I have so admired what you're doing because you've taken a big risk, personally and professionally, because a lot of people were really, really mad at you because you had the audacity to say, hey, there's something not quite right about the left's agenda.
Right.
And I thought it was brilliant. You said, I'm walking away.
Yes.
I'm going to be my own person, think for myself.
Well, a lot of those people are celebrating now that, that I'm being deplatformed or that I'm being silenced in a way. And it's a very peculiar time, I think, that we live in when people allow their hatred for somebody based off a different political ideology to infringe upon our freedoms.
Yeah.
That it's like, what means more to you, hating me or having the freedom of speech in this country? Because I don't want to shut anyone down. Even the people who are celebrating me being shut down, I will fight for their right to speak.
See,
because I think everyone should be able to speak in this country.
I think that's exactly what America's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. So walk us through what happened. You're moving along with your organization. You're getting thousands and thousands of people who agree with you and become part of it. Then what happens all of a sudden?
Well, last week I woke up and one of my employees called me and she said, the group is down and I've been banned from Facebook. I thought, huh? So I tried to get on Facebook myself and discovered I was banned. Almost simultaneously, my phone started blowing up with text messages and phone calls from employees, volunteers, all saying, we've been banned from Facebook, what's going on? So we've still gotten no explanation as to what it is that we did or what the offensive post was or anything like that. We've gotten no explanation whatsoever, but they banned me, they banned my employees, they banned my volunteers. And I want to make clear, some of these people are just contractors.
Yeah.
Now, this may be hard for some people to remember, but there used to be a time when, people just did their job and they didn't ask, who did you vote for before deciding whether or not they'd work with you? Well, there's still people like that in the world. So, I have videographers, I have merch managers, people who I'm just one of many of their clients. They've been banned. So they now can't do business with their other clients on Facebook just because of their association with me.
See, that is like second-degree punishment of people who have nothing to do with you. But
They may
I
not
don't
even
think,
be Trump supporters.
Yeah, but I don't even think you should be banned and all the people, and no word from Facebook as to why.
No. We're going through many different avenues to try to get through to somebody, and that's one really nice thing is when you build up a platform as I have and people know who you are, there's a lot of people willing to reach out and help. And so I'm very grateful that many, many people are currently trying to get us in the door to talk to somebody who might be willing to help us. But there's hundreds of thousands or more people who don't have that privilege like I have, and they're just banned, and that's all there is.
You know, we hear members of the House and the Senate, and they have hearings. We have a lot of hearings with Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey of Twitter and different ones who come in, and they act like, oh, yeah, we're trying to be more fair-minded. Nothing happens.
Right.
Have you had any contact with any member of Congress over this?
Well, I have reached out to them, especially the ones who virtue signal constantly that this is a very important issue to them, that they're doing everything that they possibly can to make a change. None of them have responded to me. And some of them are even Congress people that I've met personally. I've shaken their hands. They said, I love what you're doing. Well, I've been deplatformed, and none of these people are reaching out to try to help me. And I think that, doesn't it sometimes just feel like theater? Like we're just watching theater? It's like nothing actually changes.
Yeah.
We're just watching a soap opera, and then nothing actually changes.
And the sad thing, what we're watching is the destruction of free speech, the destruction of the idea of an open forum where people can express themselves. You know, if there's something that you say I don't like, I mean, the best thing in the world is to let me have my own soapbox and I say it. Let the people decide whether they like what you said or what I said. That's the way America is supposed to work, not shutting down the voice. It doesn't agree with the dominant left that owns the platform.
Well, this is what I don't understand. Number one, why would anyone want to exist in a monolithic system where there's only one party, one voice, one accepted narrative that we're all supposed to subscribe to?
Sounds like China, doesn't it?
Right, it does. But you know, just 3-4 years ago, I was a diehard liberal. I was a Hillary Clinton supporter. And through conversation, through debate, through research, I have completely changed my mind. And I'm so glad I did. What if we existed in a system where I couldn't do that? What if I wasn't allowed to hear other ideas that completely changed my mind? I don't want to live in that country.
But what do you do to be able to communicate? If you don't have Facebook, which has been your primary platform to communicate with the walkaway crowd, where do you go? What can you now do, and where can people find you?
Well, they didn't just take us down on Facebook. Within the next 2 days, they also canceled us our email platform, so we can't email our base. And we've been suspended from our fundraising platform pending an investigation if we're a violent organization.
An investigation of what?
They won't tell us. They won't tell us. I do not know. So in the meantime, what we're doing is we're trying to connect with more conservative-minded platforms that are not going to discriminate against us and are not going to cancel us for having our own opinions and our own point of view. And what I'm really telling conservatives right now is the time is over for us just whining and moaning about being second-class citizens on these leftist platforms. I liken it to an abusive relationship. We have stayed in this abusive relationship for years and years and allowed them to have all the cards and all of the control. It's not going to be an easy process, but we must, I think, kind of channel the spirit of the pioneers who built this country, and it's time for conservatives to build up our own social media platforms, our own emailing platforms, our own fundraising platforms. We have to become completely autonomous. We have to become completely self-reliant and no longer be in a position to allow these people to push us around.
Are you seeing more and more people who have been on the left who are waking up and realizing that they're being stifled and that their views are not being respected?
What the left is doing right now in this mass tech purge is going to backfire spectacularly. If I had a group right now, we'd be up to 1 million followers because this is going to wake so many people up. And if I may quickly say, for people who want to continue to support the work that we're doing, go to walkawaycampaign.com and, you know, just follow us, donate, do whatever you can, because we're going to rebuild from the ground up bigger and better than ever before.
Brandon, I respect you more than I can possibly express. It is an honor to have you back. Thank you.
Love being back.
We'll be keeping up with what's going on.
Thank you, sir.
Well, for now, you can still follow Brandon on Twitter. We don't know how long that's going to last. And if you want to keep up with Walkaway, you can find their group on Clout Hub. Also, sign up for updates at walkawaycampaign.com. That's walkawaycampaign.com.
Next, film star Frank Stallone. Later, I Am Second author Doug Bender. Plus, we celebrate 50 years of Don McLean's American Pie on Huckabee. MikeHuckabee.com and sign up for his free newsletter and follow @GovMikeHuckabee on Twitter.
There is a new award-winning documentary about a singer, songwriter, and actor who has been in 77 movies and TV shows. He has had multiple platinum and gold records and a top 10 hit. He's also been nominated for a Grammy and a Golden Globe. But he's still constantly compared to his brother. Here's a sneak peek at Stallone. Frank, that is.
I get a call in 1975 from my brother. My brother had moved to California. He is starting a little movie called Rocky and says, I need a song. Why he called me? Because there was no budget. I remember just sitting there going, take it back, on my guitar, just figuring something out. And eventually I wrote the song.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Frank Stallone. What an honor to have you here.
Well, I'm very happy to be here. I love Nashville, and this was a wonderful thing to do.
I think you may be one of the most versatile entertainers I've ever met, because I've seen you act my favorite film. Tombstone.
Yeah.
You know, people don't probably even realize.
No, I never get recognized because I only did, out of 77 movies, I did 2 movies I wore a mustache, Tombstone and Barfly, and I had the same name, Eddie. So, but people go, you were in Tombstone? Yeah, but of course I had a handlebar mustache, you know.
You know, I've seen that clip a gazillion times because I love the movie.
Oh, Val Kilmer and I.
Yeah. What a great
But I guess
film.
I actually live, so if they ever do Tombstone 2, the only 2 left are Kurt Russell and myself.
Yeah. You know, all the others have died at the OK Corral.
Yeah, that's right.
But you know, you also, the opening song to Rocky, Take Me Back,
yes.
You wrote it, you sang it. I think a lot of people say, oh, that's the guy that did that.
That's what this whole movie, Stallone Frank, that is about. Now, why I named it Stallone Frank, that is with the big thing and little Frank, because I've done 77 movies, 60 of them are lousy. They're cheap, you know.
That's honesty.
It was like, yeah, we can't afford 20 million, but 20,000 we'll get Frank. So I did these movies, and I knew what they were going to do. I played along with the game. And they go, so when the movie would come out in VHS, the whole top of it would be like this, Stallone. So people come in and go, wow, Sylvester's got a new movie. And then they go, oh, Frank, all right. So I did a movie with Christopher Mitchum, Robert Mitchum's son, the big Savage Harbor, Stallone, Mitchum, they're back. Frank and Chris. So it's called,
I bet it sold some movies.
Yeah, out of curiosity, they're probably saying, you know, I've done some movies that are so bad that they're actually brilliant, because no one's going to consciously go out of their way to make a movie that horrible.
You know, you're also, though, a true world-class musician.
Oh, thank you.
No, I mean, I've seen so much of the stuff you've done musically, and I mean, obviously, that is a real part of who you are.
That's more who I am. I mean, I've done the movies, but basically, I learned on the job. In other words, I didn't go to Juilliard or the Royal Academy, you know. I barely got out of high school. So, I mean, so basically, I learned on the job. I mean, I was always a ham anyway, but I learned to act on the job. But I would consider myself more or less a singer, songwriter, musician.
Now, in the film, Stallone, Frank, that is, which is a wonderful documentary people can get. Nice. Your brother is a part of it, and he talks about that relationship with you. Arnold Schwarzenegger is in it. A lot of very famous celebrities.
Yeah, some Danny Aiello, Guns N' Roses, Hall & Oates, Bon Jovi, Richie from Bon Jovi. So a lot of people I've grown up with. Now, people go, so what made you want to do a documentary? So I go, wait. I did not want it. They came to me. It wasn't like, hey, you know what? My career's in the toilet. I'll make a documentary of myself. So it wasn't like that. It was like, you know, so these young filmmakers from Texas came to me and go, Frank, I tell you, we like to do a documentary. I go, really? You know, because this point I've been beat up so bad for 45 years. I was like, really? What else? So I gave them all the names of the people I'd known. Yeah. And they went out. I was not at any of the interviews because I wanted to be surprised. Now, some people would say, he was a creep back then, you know, whatever. So all of a sudden, I go to see the screening of it, and I'm like, I had a legal pad. and I'm going to redline this thing. Nah, I don't like my hair in that shot. No, I never like my hair in any shot. So anyway, all of a sudden I'm watching this movie, and I totally, almost like elevated, got out of myself, and like I was watching the movie, because I'm not really everyone else is talking about me, and I'm put in there here and there, you know?
Yeah.
And I never thought my brother, he comes up, he says, you know, he goes, my brother Frank's as good as I am, everywhere as good as I am at what I try to do. And he's never said that to me. That's pretty cool, considering for his career.
It's even better that it's on film. You can capture it forever.
Absolutely. So I can always hold him to it. You know, the funny thing is, like, when people ask me about how Staying Alive came about, how I got the music in it, very quick, I went to the Paramount lot. I had heard from third person that my brother's directing the sequel to Saturday Night Fever. The Bee Gees had a falling out, they left the movie. So I already submitted 11 songs and got them all rejected. So my brother has two tones when he calls. There's one that he's mad at me, I did something, and the other one is he wants something. So what usually he's like, all right, Frank. And this one was like, hey, brother. I said, oh, here we go. He goes, you remember those songs you wrote? I go, of course I remember them. You rejected them. I worked hard on it. He goes, but listen, I'm going to have lunch at John Travolta's tomorrow because John's depressed. I go, you mean John's depressed? Really? I'm in a $90 apartment. He's in a $4 million home depressed, right? So I go over there with a cassette, and he goes like this. So he's sitting there talking. John's got a long face. And I'm kind of sitting between it, and I'm laughing because it's like Barbarino from Welcome Back Kotter talking to Rocky. Right? So all of a sudden he goes, and of course my brother, but he goes, I just want to play some of his music I found. I go, really? Okay. So he puts the cassette in, and all of a sudden John's eating, and all of a sudden he's starting to go, wow, that's great. Wow, that's really cool. And he's listening to the whole song. I'm literally having a coronary attack because I've been rejected 40 years. All of a sudden, it's like John Travolta's liking my music, and this is the sequel to Saturday Night Fever. And then he said to my brother, he goes, it's great, man. Who wrote that? He points at me like I'm Fredo from Godfather 2. He goes, Frankie. And John went, Frankie? Like I was like the court jester. And from the grace of God, and I believe it was a divine intervention, I ended up with 9 songs in the movie, got nominated for a Grammy, Golden Globe, and it was pretty good. And my career was over.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
All of that is in the documentary. Everyone needs to get a chance to see it. It's called Stallone. Frank, that is. Hey, Keith, would you please tell our viewers how they can see this terrific film and find the great music of Frank Stallone?
Well, Stallone, Frank that is available now for pre-order. You can learn more about the documentary as well as Frank's albums, live concert dates, and more by visiting frankstallone.com. And after the show, go to Huckabee.tv for an exclusive online performance of I'm Never Gonna Give You Up by Frank Stallone with Trey Corley and the Music City Connection. Here's a sneak peek.
Never gonna give you up for someone else's love. Never gonna let you go and lose the one I love. Oh, tonight, tonight.
Welcome back. Hey, how about a hand of appreciation for the best band in Nashville and the country, Trey Corley and the Music City Connection. Well, we are finally seeing a little light at the end of a long COVID tunnel, and we're all wanting to travel again as soon as possible. Now, I hope you'll go with me this fall to trace the steps of the Apostle Paul on a Mediterranean cruise. I promise our ship is far nicer than the one Paul had. That I promise. And the trip is going to be from October the 24th through November the 2nd. We've got the entire luxury ship to ourselves. It's going to be an inspirational and relaxing experience, great Bible teaching, and outstanding entertainment all along the way. If you're interested in going, go to thegreatesttrip.com. That's thegreatesttrip.com. Get details and sign up while space is still available. My next guest, well, he's the chief content writer for I Am Second. That's the great video website that is just filled with stories of faith and inspiration. He's got a brand new book, and it's called I Found Love, and it offers stories of prominent people who overcame devastating setbacks through the power of faith. Would you please welcome Doug Bender. Doug, welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I'm looking through the book, I Found Love, and I found a lot of people that have been on this show telling their stories.
Yeah, it's a small world.
Well, it is, but you have enlarged it by helping to give the stories of these people and their relationships a voice. How did you come up with the idea of just getting a number of couples, most of whom are pretty well-known and prominent, to tell their stories?
Yeah, well, the thing is, we all have a story. You don't always get to hear people's stories, but if you take the moments that it takes to listen, they all have great stories. So when we ran across these folks and heard their stories, we just said, we've got to get them out there. A lot of these folks people would know, some perhaps not, but all of them have just really powerful stories.
One of them that really struck my attention, David and Tamala Mann were with us, and what a great couple. Oh, my soul. They were fun and they were funny, but they also had a very powerful story of their own relationship, and it was God that brought them through some tough times.
Yeah, if you were to meet them, you would never imagine that they come from a pretty hard background.
Yeah.
Because they're just filled with joy and love and just their own relationship. You just say, I want whatever you guys have, I want to drink that.
Yeah.
But so we were able to really get that story down, because I feel like you've got to tell, how is it you found that love? Because it really is remarkable.
Well, I think their story particularly touched me because of its candor.
Yeah.
You know, they had some real tough times. He messed up.
Yeah.
He openly talks about how he violated his vows to his wife and how she learned to forgive him. And it wasn't just an instant, oh, yeah, that's fine, everything's okay. It was a long, hard process. And that's what people need to hear. There is hope, but it doesn't mean it's easy.
Well, and I think that's part of what hope means, though. Hope means things right now are not as they should be. If they were as they should be, we wouldn't need hope. We'd already have it.
Ooh, well said.
And I think that's the power of telling these stories, because they're pretty messy stories. All of these, we're not telling very clean stories in the sense that these are all people that have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Because they're people. And that's why we want to keep that in there instead of cleaning it up and saying, hey, these are wonderful, perfect people.
I'm intrigued with the title, I Found Love, not Love Found Me. But I found love. It almost implies that there is a process and that people have to put a little into it.
Yeah, I think everybody looks for love through different avenues, and they don't always know, I think, that's what they're searching for. I mean, they'll look for money, but really what they're hoping for is that will gift them love, or they'll look for success, but what they really think that'll do is get people to like them. And I think at the end of it all, what they're all really looking for is love. And thankfully, God is good enough to come out and tell us about it sometimes when we're not even knowing that's what we're looking for.
One of the couples you profile, Carrie Underwood and Mike Fisher. He's probably one of the biggest stars in the hockey world, has been. He's retired now from hockey. Carrie Underwood, one of the biggest stars in the music business. That alone has to be a very challenging relationship because they have their fan base, they have their celebrity status. Not everybody can identify with it, but there are still lessons to take away from Mike Fisher and Carrie Underwood.
Even when I was writing that story, it really hit me because, the part of their story that isn't always quite as public is they had a number of miscarriages. And that's part of the story we tell there. My wife and I, we too had that same journey. And so, to be honest with you, that was one of the harder stories to write. Not because it was a hard story to communicate, but because I had walked many of those same steps. And that's the thing, even with no matter how big someone's name is, they're still people.
Yeah.
And they still feel the same that we do. Theirs just shows up on Twitter.
Well, it's a great, powerful book about what true love is all about. Doug Bender's book, I Found Love, True Stories of Discovering Love, Belonging, and Friendship. It is available right now. And for more inspiring stories on video, visit IamSecond.com.
Up next, Grammy Hall of Famer Don McLean and 50 years of his hit, American Pie. Stay with Huckabee.
"50 years ago, Don McLean's American Pie album was released, and the title song became a #1 hit in the USA and 4 other nations, making him an international rock star. Follow-up international hits like Vincent and Crying led to over 20 successful world tours. American Pie was Don's magnum opus to rock and roll. It's a ballad that recalled the airplane crash of rock and roll's Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the big bopper J.P. Richardson. The song also captured America's cultural shift in the 60s. Tonight, we honor the 50th anniversary of American Pie and its singer and songwriter, Don McLean. Don,
thank you.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You know, this song has been interpreted by everybody who's ever heard it, and they tried to figure out what you meant. I read something you said I thought was beautiful. You said, don't overthink it. It's poetry. So have we overthought the lyrics to the song?
My idea was, and I have these ideas for songs that are really almost like inventions. And what I decided was that politics and music influence each other going forward. So that's the idea of the song, that the music gives you the political world that you want, and the political world gives you back the music that you get. And it's oscillating and moving forward as society changes, as people become different because of time and all sorts of events, politics, whatever. I was up in this little room where I used to write songs, and I sang into the tape recorder a long, long time ago, and it started all the way through to the day the music died.
It just popped in your head?
That whole thing.
Wow.
And I looked at it, it was like a genie that came out of a bottle. I said, whoa, what is that? And I said, man, I love this, And I came up with the idea of American Pie. And when I looked at those words together, I said, whoa, that looks great. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. It's not apple pie, and it's not America this, it's American Pie. And I thought, boy, that is so there I was inspiring myself, Well,
you inspired a whole country and a whole world. I mean, did you have any earthly idea that this song would take on a life of its own? Well, and 50 years later, it's still an iconic song that we listen to.
If you can imagine, my father was Scottish, my mother was Italian, and my father made $15,000 a year, and we lived in a nice house, and I went to college. I had a little time, we had a little beach club we belonged to. Good life on $15,000. That's how much money was worth. That first year, I got handed a check for $1 million.
Whoa.
And that was in 1971.
That's a lot of money in 1971.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a lot of money now.
And so it was so overwhelming.
Wow.
And I was always thinking about my father, First of all, what would he think about this,
Yeah.
And that was just the start.
It's pretty fascinating. Of all the thousands and thousands of songs that have been recorded throughout the entire century, American Pie was listed in the top 5 songs out of tens of thousands of songs, top 5 of the most influential songs of the entire century. That's a pretty big deal, Don. A pretty big deal.
Thank you. Well, it keeps coming back to what would my father think, but
I think he'd be pretty doggone proud of you.
I think he'd probably tell me I should have had a real job, but that's just another story.
When he saw that paycheck from American Pie, I think he probably said, I would like to have been a singer-songwriter myself.
I don't know. I had for a lot of years in New Rochelle, I was a joke. A guy who quit school and didn't make it as a singer, and went back to school, and people, oh, him, blah, blah, blah. Well, recently in my hometown, they unveiled a 40 or 50-foot high mural on the side of a building, and it's me. because Dershowitz put up about 10 different murals, and they're all beautiful.
And that's got to be the greatest feeling in the world to all those people that thought,
once again, what
Don
would my
McLean will
parents
never
say?
make it. Well, you did. And you know what? The greatest evidence of you having made it is you're on my show, and you're going to do American Pie with us.
I am. I'm
Does
going
it
to
get
do
any better than that? No.
Can't wait.
Well, in a moment, Don is going to perform his 50-year-old hit, American Pie. But right now, here's Keith to tell you how you can get more of the music of Don McLean.
For all things Don McLean, including his October release of Still Playing Favorites and even your own signed Don McLean merchandise, go to his website, donmclean.com, and listen to all of Don McLean's music on Spotify. Coming up after the break, Don McLean performs with Trey Corley and the Music City Connection with Mike on bass as we celebrate 50 years of American Pie on Huckabee. Now, here to perform with Trey Corley and the Music City Connection with Mike on bass, it's Don McLean.
A long, long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile. And I knew if I had my chance that I could make those people dance. Maybe they'd be happy for a while. But February made me shiver with every paper I deliver. Bad news on the doorstep. I couldn't take one more step. I can't remember if I cried when I read about his widowed bride. But something touched me deep inside the day the music died. So bye-bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys are drinking whiskey and rye, saying this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die. Did you write the book of love? Do you have faith in God above? If the Bible tells you so. Now do you believe in rock and roll? Can music save your mortal soul? Can you teach me how to dance real slow? Well, I know that you're in love with him, 'cause I saw you dancing in the gym. You both kicked off your shoes. I dig those rhythm and blues. I was a lonely teenage bronc and buck with a pink carnation and a pickup truck. But I knew I was out of line the day the music died. I started singing bye, bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee was dry. Them good old boys are drinking whiskey and rye, singing this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die. Oh, and there we were all in one place, a generation lost in space, with no time left to start again. So come on, Jack, be nimble. Jack, be quick. Jack Flash sat on his candlestick, 'cause fire is the devil's only friend. Oh, and as I watched him on the stage, my hands were clenched in fists of rage. No angel born in hell could break that Satan spell. As the flames climbed high into the night to light the sacrificial rite, I saw Satan laughing with delight the day the music died. He was singing bye, bye, died. Yeah, they were singing, bye, bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys are drinking whiskey and rye, singing, this'll be the day that I die. Thank you.